In the heart of a bustling city, surrounded by the constant hum of life, lived a young woman named Clara. At first glance, she appeared to navigate her day-to-day existence with ease, embodying resilience and determination, but beneath her composed exterior lay a turbulent sea of emotions, anxieties that shadowed her every step. Having spent her childhood in the shadow of a strict upbringing, Clara was no stranger to expectations, both those imposed by her family and those she set for herself. Growing up as the eldest daughter in a high-achieving family, she constantly battled the weight of their aspirations. Her parents, determined for their children to excel, shaped Clara's identity around achievement and perfection. With each accolade, a top grade or an athletic trophy, came praise that fostered an insatiable desire for approval within her. Yet, with every achievement came an underlying fear, the fear of failure and falling short of expectations. As she reached adulthood, Clara's facade began to crack under the strain of maintaining her seemingly perfect life. The pressure to uphold this image transformed small setbacks into monumental defeats in her mind. Simple mistakes spiraled into overwhelming guilt, forcing her deeper into isolation. Friends who once brought joy now felt like reminders of her inadequacies. She withdrew from social circles, fearing they would see through her polished facade. Amidst this emotional turmoil navigated by a relentless tide of self-doubt and anxiety, Clara found solace in writing. Journaling became both an escape and a mirror, a means to reflect on feelings she struggled to vocalize. It was in these vulnerable pages that Clara began to confront the shadows within herself. Repressed fears about love, ambition, and ultimately, the acceptance that perhaps it was okay just to be who she truly was. This phase of introspection unveiled layers she never recognized before. Her longing for connection beyond accolades, a yearning for authenticity amidst pretense, and ignited a flicker of hope. It became clear that change was necessary. Something had to shift if she were ever to find peace within herself. Clara stood at the precipice of a journey. It was time for her to dive deep into uncharted emotional waters. A journey toward self-discovery and healing awaited just beyond the horizon. One fateful evening, as Clara sat in her favorite corner of the cafe she often visited for solace, the weight of her world began to shift dramatically. She had just finished reading a heartfelt letter from her younger brother, Alex, who had written about his own struggles with the pressures of their family. Despite being seen as the less burdened sibling, Alex revealed how he felt trapped by the same expectations that haunted Clara. He expressed a yearning for understanding and a desire for their family to embrace vulnerability rather than perfection. As Clara reflected on his words, a familiar storm of emotions surged within her. Anger, sadness, and an aching sense of loneliness mingled with an unexpected pulse of hope. Just then, her phone buzzed with an incoming message that shattered the fragile moment of clarity she had found. It was from her boss, informing Clara that she had been passed over for a promotion she had coveted and believed she deserved. The decision was not based on her capabilities but rather on politics and personal preferences within the workplace. In that instant, everything felt as if it were crumbling around her. The dreams she had woven in her mind shattered like glass, taking with them her carefully curated self-image. It felt like a breach, a personal failure weighing heavily alongside the familial expectations that had always loomed over her. With tears streaming down her face and coffee forgotten on the table, Clara realized that this was more than just a setback, it was an awakening. For the first time, she understood that continuing to chase validation through achievements would only lead to more disillusionment. This pivotal moment cracked open the door to her heart and allowed the suppressed emotions to flood out. Feeling raw and exposed, Clara sought refuge in her journal that night, pouring out grief and anger she had long internalized. Clara now stood at a crossroads, a choice to either retreat into familiar isolation or step boldly into unfamiliar territory. She decided to confront the years of insecurity and fear buried beneath layers of expectations with newfound determination. Clara committed herself to understanding those layers and embarking on a courageous journey toward authentic self-discovery. As Clara embarked on her journey of self-discovery, she found herself drawn to a community center where a support group for young adults struggling with similar issues met weekly. It was a pivotal decision, spurred by an urge to connect with others who might understand the burdens of expectation and the quest for authenticity. The moment she walked through the door, she was met by warm smiles and nods of recognition. It felt as if she had stumbled into a sanctuary. Among the diverse group, Clara quickly formed a bond with Maya, a spirited artist who exuded an infectious enthusiasm for life despite her own battles with self-doubt. Maya had experienced the intense pressure of familial expectations that often stifled her creativity. Her vibrant paintings adorned the walls of the center, each piece telling stories of resilience and hope. With her encouragement, Clara began to recognize the beauty in vulnerability. Maya's laughter became a balm for Clara's heart, reminding her that joy could exist alongside pain. Another key figure in the group was David, a thoughtful and introspective therapist who facilitated their discussions. David created an atmosphere of safety and trust, gently guiding them through exercises that encouraged emotional expression. He shared his own experiences of grappling with expectations from peers during his youth, which made Clara feel less alone in her struggles. His ability to listen without judgment helped her articulate feelings she had long suppressed, allowing her to start unpacking the layers of insecurity that had built up over the years. Through these interactions, Clara began to understand the healing nature of genuine connection. Each session brought new revelations. Sharing her experiences felt cathartic, while listening to others' stories fostered empathy and compassion within her. The group dynamic transformed from mere acquaintances to a makeshift family, where encouragement flowed freely, and everyone was accepted just as they were. As their friendships deepened, Clara felt emboldened. A sense of belonging blossomed within her heart. She realized that healing was not a solitary endeavor but rather a shared journey. With every shared laugh and tear, she became more determined to embrace her authentic self and cultivate connections that would further enrich her life. The path ahead was still uncertain, but with newfound allies by her side, Clara felt ready to face whatever came next. As Clara continued to attend the support group and develop her newfound friendships, she found herself grappling with deeper internal conflicts that threatened to hold her back. Despite the warmth of her connections, self-doubt lingered like a persistent shadow, whispering incessant reminders of her perceived inadequacies. Each time she shared her story in the group, a nagging voice in her mind questioned whether she truly belonged there, or if she was simply an imposter masquerading as someone working toward healing. One evening during a particularly raw discussion, Clara's anxiety bubbled to the surface. When others spoke about their childhood traumas and how they shaped their present lives, Clara felt an overwhelming urge to share her own past but hesitated, fearing judgment. Memories of harsh criticism from her parents surfaced, those moments when they dismissed her dreams as frivolous or declared her efforts insufficient. The echoes of their disappointment haunted her, creating a barrier between who she was and who she wanted to be. The fear of vulnerability weighed heavily on her heart. Clara longed to express these feelings, but felt paralyzed by the belief that revealing her true self would lead only to rejection. The walls she had built around herself for protection now felt like a prison, stifling any possibility of growth. She worried about what it would mean to confront these feelings openly. Would sharing them in the group push people away instead of drawing them closer? In addition to these fears, Clara also struggled with lingering trauma from past relationships where trust had been broken. She recalled a friendship that had soured due to jealousy and betrayal. A painful reminder that not everyone could be relied upon for support. This experience made it difficult for Clara to fully embrace the bonds she was forming within the group. She feared intimacy would inevitably lead to hurt. During one session, David encouraged the members to consider journaling as a tool for processing their feelings. As Clara began writing again, pouring out her thoughts onto paper became a release valve for her pent-up emotions. Through this practice, she slowly began confronting not only the fear of judgment but also the hurt buried deep within. She recognized that while healing might be uncomfortable and messy, it was also essential for reclaiming her sense of self. With each entry in her journal, Clara took small steps toward embracing both her past and present, acknowledging that facing these internal struggles head-on was necessary for true transformation. As daunting as it seemed, she understood that confronting these inner demons was integral to moving forward on her journey toward authenticity and healing. One chilly evening, as Clara sat in her favorite nook at the cafe, where she had spent many hours reflecting and writing, she stumbled upon a piece of paper tucked between the pages of her journal. It was a note from her younger brother Alex, written during a particularly challenging time in his life. As she unfolded it, Clara felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. The note encapsulated his struggles, his fears of not living up to expectations, and his earnest desire for their family to embrace imperfection together. Reading Alex's heartfelt words served as a mirror reflecting her own insecurities and fears. In that moment, something shifted within Clara. She realized that she had not only been clinging tightly to her family's expectations, but had also imposed them onto herself, feeling the weight of perfectionism like a heavy anchor. It was a poignant reminder that vulnerability was not just an obstacle, it was a fundamental part of human connection and growth. The realization struck like a bolt of lightning. A moment of clarity unfolded before her. Clara understood that hiding behind the walls of self-doubt and fear had kept her from living authentically. The realization sparked something deep within her, igniting a flicker of courage that had long been dormant. She began to imagine what her life might look like if she allowed herself to be truly seen, not just by others but by herself. Determined to act on this newfound understanding, Clara decided to share her story with the support group during their next meeting. With each word she rehearsed in her mind, her heart raced with both excitement and trepidation. She envisioned the possibility of breaking free from the shackles of perfectionism and inviting acceptance into her life. When the day arrived, Clara stood in front of the group, her hands trembling slightly but her resolve stronger than ever. As she spoke about her fears and dreams, she felt the walls crumbling around her, each sentence liberating her from the weight of unworthiness. The supportive gazes from Maya and David fortified her spirit, reminding her that she was not alone in this journey. Clara's heartfelt sharing became a turning point. It marked the beginning of her active pursuit of change. Instead of merely existing within her internal battles, she was ready to embrace the messy, beautiful process of being authentic, a leap into vulnerability that promised deeper connections and genuine self-acceptance. As Clara began to embrace her journey toward authenticity, she soon encountered a series of unexpected challenges that tested her resolve. The initial thrill of vulnerability quickly gave way to a wave of uncomfortable emotions. Sharing her story in the support group had been liberating, but it also opened the floodgates to feelings she had long suppressed: fear, sadness, and a profound sense of inadequacy. In her everyday life, Clara's attempt to implement change became fraught with setbacks. For instance, she decided to cut back on self-criticism and reframe her internal dialogue, striving to replace negative thoughts with affirmations of her worth. Yet, whenever she faced even the slightest mistake or challenge, whether at work or in personal relationships, the old voices would resurface, mocking her efforts. "You're not good enough," they whispered. It felt as if each setback was a tangible affirmation of everything she'd fought against, dragging her back into the depths of self-doubt. Her workplace presented another set of hurdles. While Clara had vowed to pursue projects aligned with her passions rather than succumbing to pressure for perfection, she found herself at odds with colleagues who thrived on competition and were dismissive of her newfound values. Important meetings became sources of anxiety, rather than opportunity, as interactions with her peers were laced with judgment and scrutiny. She spent sleepless nights replaying conversations in her head, questioning her contributions and fearing she would never measure up. Moreover, Clara's relationships began to feel strained as well. Friends who had once been supportive expressed confusion over her changed demeanor. Some questioned why she seemed less focused on traditional successes, while others simply didn't understand the journey she was undertaking. Clara felt isolated and misunderstood, grappling with the notion that embracing authenticity could inadvertently distance her from those she cared about. Despite these emotional tolls, Clara found solace in the support group. During one session, Maya shared her own recent struggles with self-acceptance and the fear of disappointing loved ones. This moment resonated deeply with Clara. She realized she wasn't alone in facing the painful contrast of growth and belonging. In response to these challenges, Clara recommitted herself to journaling, channeling her frustrations and fears onto the page. It became a refuge where she could explore her feelings without judgment. Through this practice, Clara learned that while challenges were inevitable on the path to change, they served as opportunities for continued growth. Each setback reinforced her determination to persevere, reminding her that healing was not linear but rather an intricate tapestry woven from struggle and resilience. As Clara continued her journey of self-discovery, she began to experience critical moments of vulnerability that further deepened her connections with those around her. One evening, during a group session, Maya shared a poignant story about her recent struggle with artistic block and the fear that accompanied it. She described the overwhelming pressure to create something perfect. Clara felt an undeniable pull of empathy and recognition. In that moment, She realized how similar their battles were and how important it was to share these struggles openly. Feeling inspired by Maya's honesty, Clara felt the urge to reciprocate. Taking a deep breath, she opened up about her own fears, the suffocating anxiety that often plagued her when trying to meet expectations, both from her family and herself. As she spoke, Clara felt the weight of years of pressure lift slightly. It was as if the act of voicing her emotions somehow made them less daunting. The room fell silent as her fellow group members listened intently, and for the first time, she could see their eyes reflecting understanding rather than judgment. Later that week, during one of her journaling sessions at home, Clara encountered a flood of emotions that caught her off guard. She wrote about a memory from her childhood, a moment when her father had criticized her artwork harshly. The words poured out like a dam breaking free, revealing layers of hurt she had kept hidden for years. After writing it all down, she felt both exhausted and liberated. This act of vulnerability not only allowed her to confront her past but also served as a catalyst for healing. The following support group meeting became another pivotal moment as Clara shared her journal entry. Tears streamed down her face, each drop representing years of bottled-up pain. Yet this time, instead of feeling ashamed or weak, she felt strong and courageous for expressing herself so openly. The group responded with warmth and compassion. They shared their own stories of pain and triumph in return. Among these exchanges, Clara forged deeper relationships with her peers. David, in particular, affirmed the strength it took to confront such raw emotions. His words resonated deep within her. She was not alone in this journey. They were all navigating their own struggles, bound by shared experiences. By allowing herself to be vulnerable, Clara didn't just express her feelings. She created space for others to do the same. As the group formed tighter bonds through these shared moments, Clara understood that vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge leading to genuine connection. A powerful force that could transform relationships and foster healing for everyone involved. Each moment reinforced her belief that embracing authenticity would ultimately guide her toward the life she longed for. As Clara's emotional journey reached a pivotal moment, she found herself standing at the edge of a confrontation she had long avoided, the looming shadow of her relationship with her parents. After attending several support group sessions and experiencing significant growth, she was now more aware of how her upbringing shaped her fears and desires. The persistent need for validation and acceptance from them had woven an invisible thread throughout her life, leaving her feeling trapped. One afternoon, anxiously summoned by her mother for a family gathering, Clara felt the familiar knot tighten in her stomach. This was not just any gathering. It was an occasion where expectations ran high, a showcase of achievements, accomplishments, and portrayals of familial pride. As she prepared herself mentally, Clara grappled with conflicting emotions, the desire to reconnect with her family versus the instinct to protect her newfound sense of self. Making her way to the gathering, she fought back memories of harsh words and unmet expectations, ready to confront them. As relatives exchanged stories about their successes in front of a table adorned with fancy platters of food, Clara's discomfort mounting. She listened as chatter swelled around her. It was all focused on perfection. She felt suffocating, a reminder that the old patterns were waiting just beneath the surface. In a moment fueled by frustration and clarity, Clara decided enough was enough. Standing up, she took a deep breath that could almost be heard through the clamor of voices surrounding her. With trembling hands but newfound resolve, she addressed the room. "I want to share something," she began, capturing everyone's attention. With every word that tumbled out, perhaps spurred by the vulnerability practiced in group sessions, Clara unveiled the truth about her experience, the relentless pressure to meet expectations and how it had affected her. She spoke openly about moments of failure and doubt, about feeling overshadowed by success narratives that emphasize perfection over growth. In confronting these emotions publicly, Clara laid bare the wounds from past criticisms that had haunted her for so long. To her surprise, instead of silence or judgment, there followed an unexpected response, a wave of empathy rippling through family members who nodded along, as if they too understood this hidden battle. What began as a confrontation turned into heartfelt exchanges among relatives as stories unfolded about their own struggles with failures and self-worth. Clara had unlocked a door that allowed vulnerability to pour into the atmosphere. A stark shift from perfectionism to connection. This was not merely an act of gathering. It became an emotional release for everyone present. reinforcing Clara's realization that speaking her truth had freed not only herself, but had also invited others to step into their authenticity, standing there in front of them, no longer defined merely by their expectations. Clara felt an illuminating freedom. She was stepping boldly into who she truly wanted to be, finally unburdening herself from years of invisible chains. As the dust settled from the emotional family gathering, Clara felt a profound shift within herself. The act of sharing her truth had not only lifted an immense weight off her shoulders, but also deepened her understanding of what it meant to embrace vulnerability. With this newfound clarity, she began to recognize the value of authentic connections, not just with her family or support group, but with herself. In the days following the gathering, Clara made it a point to reflect on her experiences more intentionally. She returned to her journaling practice with a sense of purpose, writing not only about her struggles, but also about her triumphs and the small victories she celebrated daily. Through these pages, she started to cultivate gratitude for the lessons learned along the way. Acknowledged that healing was not merely about confronting pain. It was also about recognizing growth and progress. With each entry, Clara explored her dreams and aspirations outside the specter of expectation. She allowed herself to entertain the idea of pursuing art more seriously, something she had long put on hold due to fear of judgment. Inspired by Maya's passion for creativity, Clara signed up for a weekend art class at a local studio. This decision felt liberating. It was a chance to express herself in a medium where perfection was irrelevant and exploration was celebrated. One evening after her art class, as Clara stood before her easel filled with bright splashes of color and unfinished strokes, she felt an overwhelming sense of joy wash over her. She realized that she was no longer seeking approval from anyone but herself. The colors on the canvas resembled new beginnings, reflecting her journey toward self-acceptance and authenticity. Furthermore, Clara continued attending support group sessions, where she found herself taking on a more active role in facilitating discussions. Her courage to speak candidly had inspired others to open up, creating a ripple effect of healing within the group. Each interaction reaffirmed that vulnerability leads to strength. Together they navigated their journeys, forging bonds that were enriched by shared experiences and understanding. As time passed, Clara found closure not just in confronting her past but in redefining her future. Her relationship with her parents began to shift as well, fueled by newfound compassion and empathy that had emerged in both directions. They started having open dialogues about their expectations, gradually allowing space for acceptance and love without conditions. Ultimately, Clara's journey culminated in a profound realization. Healing is an ongoing process, marked by both struggles and joys. By embracing change, rather than resisting it, she discovered that living authentically brought fulfillment far beyond any accolades or external validation could ever provide. Filled with hope and resilience, Clara stepped boldly into this new chapter of her life, a testament to the strength born from vulnerability and connection. As Clara's journey of self-discovery drew to a close, she reflected deeply on the growth she had experienced throughout her transformative process. What started as a struggle against the formidable weight of familial expectations developed into a powerful lesson in emotional resilience. Clara learned that vulnerability, once perceived as a weakness, was a bridge to healing, connection, and genuine self-acceptance. Emboldened by her openness and the support of her newfound community, she began to shed the fragile layers of perfectionism that had long defined her. Each act of courage, whether sharing her story at a family gathering or exploring her creative impulses, contributed to forging a more authentic identity. Clara recognized that while the journey was fraught with challenges, each setback served not only as an obstacle but also as an invaluable stepping stone toward personal growth. The impact of Clara's journey resonated not just within herself but rippled out to affect everyone around her. Her willingness to confront difficult conversations with her parents shifted their dynamic, fostering more honest communication filled with compassion and understanding. As they began to discuss their shared fears regarding expectations, Clara watched as long-held tensions eased into mutual support rather than judgment. In creating space for vulnerability in her family, she laid the groundwork for deeper bonds rooted in love rather than obligation. Within the support group, Clara's active role as a facilitator enriched relationships among members seeking healing alongside her. Her authentic storytelling encouraged others to reflect on their own experiences and embrace their narratives without fear. The community thrived on this gift of vulnerability, transforming from a mere support system into a close-knit family cherishing collective progress. As she continued journaling and engaging in art, Clara found that each stroke on canvas represented a cathartic release, a joyful celebration of individuality unfettered by outside validation. This practice not only nurtured self-expression but also taught her the beauty of imperfection and the freedom found in exploration. In closing this chapter of her life, Clara acknowledged that healing is not a finite destination but an ongoing journey filled with new discoveries and evolving aspirations. She entered this next phase with a fierce sense of hope and resilience. Embracing life's uncertainties became an integral part of her path forward. The lessons learned from moments of doubt and authenticity instilled a profound understanding. Emotional strength comes not from evading pain but from embracing it fully. As Clara stood at the threshold of new beginnings armed with insight and newfound confidence, she knew that this journey would continue shaping not only her life but also the lives of those around her. An enduring legacy of love born through vulnerability and connection.